What's up, my fellow UFC fans, and back with a new video today. And this is going to be a recap on the fight with Usman and Burns last Friday at the UFC Apex Center in Las Vegas, and also basically a discussion about what's next for him, really, you know, in terms of his career and fights and whatnot in the welterweight division. So as you know, he's pretty much cemented himself now at the top of his division for the welterweight, being 170 pound, and after beating his contender Burns at UFC 258. Now they used to be training partners. Obviously Burns being Brazilian, they used to train together at a gym, and that was in Florida, and that was the Sanford MMA. But obviously Usman then left to join the Elevation fight team in Colorado. So obviously there's a bit of beef from the past there, obviously being teammates and now becoming ultimately, you know, main rivals in this division. Burns actually entered this fight on a 6-winning streak. His last fight, obviously, against the former champ Tyrone Woodley, being, you know, apparently, as some say, a lopsided unanimous decision. But nonetheless, he was at 19-4 at that point. Obviously, as we know with Usman, he was 18-1 at this point. So this was his first time returning to the octagon since his first fight with Masvidal back in UFC 251. And guys, I'll link a video at the end of this one for that coverage I did for that fight, just so you can get some more info on that, how that went down. As we know, the Nigerian Nightmare, he actually beat him in that fight, and entered this fight on a 16-fight winning streak, which included 2 successful defenses of his title. And now, obviously, as we know, winning this one, he's now defended it 3 times. I'm going to review the brief 3 rounds in a moment, but before I do that, I just want to quickly talk about a few things that Usman said about this fight after. And, you know, he admitted it was a really tough one indeed, because of the whole gym situation and him leaving and whatnot, and that being his 3rd title defense. But the guy, you know, he does get some, you know, haters and trolls, and I'm going to talk about what Dana White said in his defense. But ultimately, you know, the guy is saying, I am the better fighter. I'm like the varsity guy. And I'm always going to have a better fighting IQ than him. So it's different. And even though he respects Burns, he ultimately puts himself in a completely different league above him, despite his achievements, Burns, you know. So it's interesting. I do agree with him. I do think Burns is a fantastic fighter. But I will say that Usman just brings something a bit different to the table. And obviously he's being compared to GSP, which we're going to talk about later in the video. I wouldn't compare them, but like I said, we're going to get to that later in the video. And getting back to Usman, you know, let's not get it twisted, guys and girls. Like, these guys are fighters, and you know, they're different type of fighters compared to boxers and whatnot, because they really hurt each other. And you can see in Usman's face when they first enter the round and get ready, and, you know, they glove to glove and face to face, he says, you know, there's no friends in there. We're not friends at all. I'm going to come here to do what I do, and that's to win, to defend my title and show the player that I'm here to stay. And he talks about that in a post-interview fight with Joe Rogan, actually, because he's going back to what I said about Dana White and talking about the casual watchers of the sport who don't really understand what it's about. They just watch the big money fights like Conor McGregor and whatnot. So anyway, about the actual fight itself. So Burns opened up on the first round, and he actually did quite hurt Usman with a right hand in the opening seconds of the first round, but it wasn't enough to secure a finish. And as we went into the second round, there was a complete rebound from Usman, and he's rocking that Durinho with a right hand of his own, and he then obviously carried the momentum of that into the third round and dropped Burns with a jab, and then obviously finishing the ground and pound. So it was a quite short round, as we've seen. 3 rounds in total for that. And I'll be honest, we know how heavy-handed, you know, the Brazilian can be. And, they're only 1 year difference, might I add, in terms of age. I was quite surprised that he did manage to hurt Usman. And Usman said, you know, when it hit him, he actually really felt it. So he was stunned by that. But nonetheless, the guy kept his cool and came back and showed us all why he is the best in the division. And he's now being argued as being the best of all time because he surpassed GSP's record in the weight class. So that's Georges St-Pierre, by the way, for the guys who don't know what that abbreviation means. One of the legends of the sport in the welterweight division. Even though the fight was very brief, I was very happy that it finally happened, because obviously there's been delays because of COVID and all other reasons in the past with various fighters. And, you know, I'm really pleased with Usman. You know, I think he's such a fantastic fighter, and still so young, only 33. I still think he's got a good few years in the tank, to be honest. But what we're going to talk about coming up is, you know, what is next for him. You know, like, he is basically completely dominated this entire division with no one to stand in his way. Like, he obviously is going to be feeling at this point bored, because I would be, you know, like, no one is really a good contender. And, you know, people saying like myself, go up another weight class or go down, you know, like, you've got to try different things, because there's no one coming through. And you know, the guy's credentials speak for themselves. I know the fans aren't convinced by his incredible run of wins, but I don't really see how you can't be. You know, like, 13 consecutive wins, taking over the record of GSP 12. Like I said, you know, what more can you win? And like, he's you know, he's fought off some really like fucking good guys in the sport. Like, we're not talking about complete beaters. I mean, they wouldn't be there in the first place if they weren't any good, you know. But wins over Tyrone Woodley, Colby Covington, Georges Masvidal, it just says about his quality. You know, how can you argue with that? You know, you really can't. It's something different. And for people to hate on him, you know, and to slam him, I just don't know what they're talking about. Like, he's done so well. He's from a different era, obviously, to GSP. They were like, GSP retired 1 year before he started, I believe. He is only a little bit older than Usman, but nonetheless, he's retired, and I don't think he's going to come back out of retirement. But if he did, that would be pretty sick. And also, it's what I think Dana would love, because we know it's a money fight. But again, I think going back on Usman, and here obviously Dana's trying to defend him, it's because that his fights aren't really seen as those big money fights, like, that people aren't as interested. And unfortunately, they all go for the names. So before, with Masvidal, that was a big game. And that goes back to the casuals again. Obviously, people just watching it because of the big names and the money involved. So, but anyway, obviously, Usman has stated before he's got no interest in moving up to the middleweight division, unless his, you know, his fellow Nigerian, Israel Adesanya, is willing to give up the title and the quest in 185. Then he'll consider it, because he's got no interest, as he says, in competing against his fellow Nigerian. He doesn't want one black guy with two of the belts. He wants two black guys in two divisions from Nigeria holding those belts. Fair play to him on that one, but I don't know, I don't really like that reason. I don't really believe that is the reason. I think that's a bit shit, to be honest. Usman has a perfect opportunity here to go up to a weight class that's not much bigger than he already is, to be fair. You know, he could easily get to that weight and hold it very well and not slow him down, in my opinion, and take on new guys and prove himself in another division. I think that's what really, like, sets you apart in terms of being a fighter. You know, if you can actually move between the divisions, go up, go down, and still dominate, I think that's what he needs to do. He says time and time again, though, like I said, he doesn't want two Africans, you know, fighting over two belts. He'd rather have two Africans with two belts. But I just don't believe that, you know. I just think it's bullshit. And personally, I think he should just go up. So where does that leave us? Who's next? Now, I'm going to show you a quick segment of the post-fight interview with Joe Rogan, where you can see how aggy and pissed off he is about the haters, the people doubt him and not showing respect, and also about Masvidal, and he calls him out here.
Before I go, you know, we got this little street thug calling himself Jesus. He thinking he's Jesus, and you know, Joe, we tried to make that fight several times. They tried to make that fight, but he kept backing out. The only reason this man took the fight is because it was on 6 days' notice, and he had a built-in excuse. And he's still running his mouth, talking about, oh, he broke my nose and stepping in on 6 days. Give you 3 weeks, he's going to do something. Guess what? It's not done. I'll give you a whole training camp. I guarantee you, you won't sign on that dotted line, because this time I'm going to finish your ass.
That's the fight you want.
So as you can see, Usman is like gunning for his blood, and a tweet, which I'm going to show up in a minute, from Masvidal's manager, Malki Kawa, he responded saying, "We accept your offer, it's on." So that's pretty exciting, because if you remember in UFC 251, the first time these two met, it It went to unanimous decision, obviously, in Usman's favour. But separate to what Usman says, I think Masvidal did do really well to prep that quickly. You know, and he's saying it's an excuse why he lost. But let's see what happens this time. He's going to give him that proper training camp and the full prep. I would be very interested to see how this you know, this rematch goes. I'm very excited for it, not because it's a money one, but because I think Masvidal needs to prep properly to really put this beef to rest between the two and show who's obviously the ultimate fighter there. So let me know in the comment section below, guys, if you think that fight with Masvidal is going to happen. So just quickly again about the GSP thing and the comparison. So people are saying that he's on his way to becoming GSP 2.0. You know, they can't really be compared. You know, they're such different fighters. But, you know, Pierre said he likes the way Usman changed his style, the way he switched his stance. He puts good pressure on the fence. He's a really good wrestler, which we know, and a good all-round fighter. And he's fantastic. He loves watching him. He said you can't compare us, you know, they're different, you know. And if you remember GSP, you know, he liked his takedowns. He'd work with decoys and whatnot, and his timing had different type of wrestling. But overall, you know, he's a different fighter. So I don't like personally how they're being compared as well, and how Usman's being classed as the GOAT. I just think they're different fighters altogether. Would have been great if they could have come, you know, in the same time. Obviously, like I said before, it was a different time for them. But Usman has said before, you know, he would actually love to fight him. You know, if he came back, he would be well up for that. Do I think that's fair? Probably not. GSP, even though he's not much older, he's been out of the game for a while. So Usman's got the upper edge there where he's more fresh and obviously a bit younger. And as you may remember, GSP was a two-time champion with a 25-2 record with his infamous hiatus late in 2013. You know, and the pair of them, they never crossed paths, and they never would have done. So it's interesting though, because they had nearly 50 combined MMA bouts, but never had a single common opponent. So that's quite interesting in itself. But I like GSP. He's a really nice, humble guy, and you know, he really rates Usman, but he just doesn't want to be put in the same category as him. You know, ultimately he's like, look, great fighter, I love watching him, don't compare us, we're very different, I won't fight him, it's not going to happen. But that would be an amazing fight. What would you guys think on that one if that ever did happen, if he did come out of retirement? Do you think GSP could have the edge over Usman even at this late stage of retiring for such a long time? That would be really cool. So let me know in the comment section below. Also, let me know what you think about the fight with Burns overall, and where you think Usman is going from here on. Is he going to go up to the middleweight? Is he going to go down? Is he going to stay in this division and just wait for newcomers? Let me know what you think. I hope you liked the video today, guys, and if you did, as always, please remember to like, comment and subscribe. Until next time, I'll see you soon. Amigo and Finis, signing out.